Hi, I'm Greg Filson, known from the BXG podcast. You can get that anywhere. I'm here to tell you about really great sunglasses from Ambassador Sunglasses. If you need any kind, any style, they really do a representation. Men or women, you'll find a perfect pair. Good prices, and with my promo code GTPHILS, all caps, you can get 50% off starting now. Yeah, please go ahead, get yourself a pair, get someone else a pair. They're a really good price. I can't recommend them highly enough. I've been wearing the 4 that I've got all the time, and I get compliments all the time. You will too. Ambassador Sunglasses, ambassador.com. Promo code GTPHILS.
Welcome to the BXG podcast, the podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet at the nexus of the universe and are melded as seamlessly of Game of Thrones and wasting money. I am one of your hosts. This is episode 63. I am one of your hosts, Brenton Bestwick, alongside my co-host. He is a man of the team, Greg Filson.
Greg, I'm a man of the team. I'm doing all right. I'm glad that, you and I do this show together. Not one of us has to run back and forth and collect everything by ourselves and do the show. I mean, you do the majority of the dirt work, the grit. You're the gritty one. But there was only one person to really talk about this week. When we talk about the fourth major sport, there's one person that stands out.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
Athlete of the week. You're McDonald's athlete of the week.
Yeah, the Bob Greenberg player of the game or whatever. That's a deep cut.
It is.
Let's see here. This is episode 63. BXG podcast publishes every Friday at 9 a.m. on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and other podcast services around the globe. You can catch us on social media, facebook.com/BXG Podcast, Instagram @BXG Podcast, @GTFils, @Y2B, Twitter @BXG Podcast, @GTFilson, @Y2B, and then over on our YouTube channel where there was a glut of reviews last week for Ghostbusters, Afterlife, Cowboy Bebop episodes 1 through 3. What else did we have on there? Hawkeye episodes 1 and 2.
Gucci, House of Gucci,
yeah. And then we did the retro review of planes, trains, and automobiles. I believe I'll probably put up a poll for what Christmas movie we'll do a retro review of for this month. We did get a request from Eddie McDonald over on Twitter to do a top 10 Christmas movies episode. Ooh. And I think part of that would have to be like taking a little bit of creative license and saying like, okay, Die Hard's a Christmas movie. Iron Man 3 is a Christmas movie.
Everyone kind of considers Die Hard a Christmas movie at this point.
Iron Man 3.
Here's my thing with Christmas movies. If Christmas happens in the movie at any point, it is then a Christmas movie.
Okay.
That's
like half the
Harry Potters. Half Harry Potters. That's why they come, like, everyone's always, oh, Harry Potter's Christmas time movies, because it happens at Christmas. Half the movies happen at Christmas. Right. If it happens at Christmas at all, if it's one scene, you're a Christmas movie.
Next year for Thanksgiving, we'll do my favorite Thanksgiving movie, Spider-Man.
Hey, yeah. There you go.
Thanksgiving scene in it.
Yeah, there's a Thanksgiving scene. Heck yeah.
There's a Macy's Day Parade even.
Yeah.
In that movie. Yeah. That's definitely a Thanksgiving movie. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to do an extra episode of 10 Christmas movies, but we'll definitely do maybe a couple. Maybe
it'll just be a segment we throw just our favorites out there. What we recommend.
Well, yeah, but I mean, maybe we can get in deep with a few, or we could do for Christmas Eve. Whatever. Maybe
we'll figure it out.
Maybe we'll do for the episode that'll come out on Christmas Eve, top 5.
Okay.
For each of us. We'll do that as a segment. We'll see what happens.
Tough.
I don't want to make any promises. Let's see. We're going to be doing a crossover.
I'll just say this. If you're good, boys and girls.
Oh boy.
If you're good, maybe we'll do it. There you go.
Yeah. We'll see if what the elf on the shelf says.
Exactly.
We're gonna have a crossover, and I think what's gonna end up happening with that is it's gonna be a second extra episode for the month, because we're already gonna do the Harry Potter thing. We're planning on doing that, having that ready to go the week of Christmas. But we're also doing a whatchamacallit. We're gonna do a crossover. We're gonna have some guests. Yeah, we're gonna have some guests. We're gonna do a movie wrap up for the year of 2021. We're gonna have on Tony and Nick from My Mom's Garage podcast. They've done a lot of the same movies that we have, even like some of the weird ones like Mitchell's versus the Machine and Army of Darkness and stuff like that. So I think they're definitely in the same wheelhouse as us. I've been listening to some of their stuff. So there's kind of a media recommendation early in the game from My Mom's Garage podcast. Mostly it's a lot of the same stuff we do. I mean, nobody does the challenge like we do. Not even people from the challenge do the challenge like we do.
No, we are the best challenge podcast there is.
Right. But we've got a big show tonight. Hawkeye episode 3. We're going to dive back into Cowboy Bebop. Obviously, we do have the challenge. We're going to talk a little bit about sports here with the college football season coming to a close, and pop culture potpourri. As always, we got some interesting topics in there, and then media recommendations. But we'll start with number 1, which is really, this was late in the game because Hawkeye was going to be number 1, but big news out of Sony and Marvel this week. In an interview with Fandango, longtime Spider-Man producer Amy Pascal said the following quote: "This is not the last movie that we're going to make with Marvel, ellipsis. This is not the last Spider-Man movie. We're getting ready to make the next Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland and Marvel. It just isn't part of. We're thinking of this as 3 films, and now we're going on to the next 3. This is not the last of our MCU movies," end quote. So let's talk about what that means for Spider-Man No Way Home and beyond, with 3 more Tom Holland led Spider-Man movies on the horizon.
It's crazy to me to think of 3 more Tom Holland movies, and nothing. This is nothing against Tom Holland. This is nothing. It's just that would make him appear more than any other Marvel character, right? When you count every other, and Spider-Man's the most popular Marvel character, so I'm not saying that in a weird way, but just the fact that the reason why any of this exists is because of singularly one person.
That makes 9.
Right.
That would make 9 for him.
So that's
not including if he does any other team up movies.
Yeah.
That aren't,
which will definitely be
Spider-Man, probably. So you have his trilogy, you have a second trilogy, and then you have Civil War, Endgame, Infinity War, so that makes 9. RDJ, 3 Iron Man movies, 4 Avengers movies, Civil War.
Oh, so he had 10.
Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then end credit scenes in Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
So that's
so
11.
He's on pace though. So Tom Holland's probably on pace considering the crossover effect to have more Marvel Studios / Sony Spider-Man movies.
How many did Chris Evans have? 3
Captain. Yeah.
4
Avengers.
4 Avengers.
No Way or Homecoming.
Homecoming.
Yeah.
Is that it?
I think that's it.
He doesn't pop up anywhere else.
Not that I can think of.
Well, I mean, technically he's in Thor.
Well, yeah, he is in Thor.
World
he
with,
is.
With Loki. Yeah. But that's
so. Yeah. I guess my point on that is, and this is But what we got, the glorious event that we got from this new phase of Marvel, doesn't happen without, number one, I mean, a lot of people, but I mean, actor wise, it doesn't happen without Robert Downey Jr. It just doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah.
And Chris Evans would be number 2 on that, kind of the way that the Avengers work out as Iron Man and Captain America are 1 and 2. And Spider-Man is in the Avengers, but he's solo by himself most of the time. So it's funny to me that eventually we're going to end up the way that almost the comic books end up, is that Spider-Man's in the Avengers, but he's the most popular of all the Marvel characters. You know, maybe Wolverine's up there, but for the most part, we always think of Spider-Man. So it always ends up that Spider-Man's your 1A. And this is what Marvel's doing and playing with that. And we've discussed it. We don't think Tom Holland is the greatest actor outside of the MCU. And maybe that's fine for him to keep doing this, because if he's doing this, it takes him away from being in other movies so much. Yeah, like Cherry and, you know, other things. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of his other movies, but there's not a lot of acting chops that we have really got to see from Tom Holland. And if he keeps being Spider-Man, and as long as he does his Spider-Man thing, I think the movies will still be, you know, entertaining. And they don't have, the thing about Spider-Man movies, I don't think there's a bad Spider-Man movies. There's just ones that are less good. And
per Rotten Tomatoes, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not well.
It has a very low,
It's got a 40, 55, something like that.
But the biggest reason
too, the Toby one is also not super well regarded.
The thing that I'm thinking now is that these next 3, Kingpin.
Well, we'll get into him in a little bit.
Right. And I think he has to, I mean, Kingpin hasn't been in any of these to a degree of like what Kingpin is in the comic books. I mean, Kingpin's like the guy in the comic books. And we really don't dive into him in the, you know, obviously in the Tobey Maguire ones. And so it's weird to me that we haven't got to that. And it feels like this must be where it's going, is that either it's a Kingpin trilogy, or at least he's going to be a big bad in at least, I would say he has to be a big bad in at least 1.5 of the movies for this next 3 to really work. Because the best part about Spider-Man is that the villains are awesome.
Yeah.
And Kingpin is one of the awesome villains.
So here's where I think it's pretty evident that Kingpin's making his way to the MCU, possibly sooner rather than later.
Right.
And again, we'll get into that with the Hawkeye. I do not think that Kingpin is Spider-Man. Last week we looked at the new poster that was released for No Way Home, and we were theorizing, is that Venom amongst the sand? And I think maybe that was grasping at grains of sand a little bit, no pun intended, or pun highly intended.
Yeah.
I think this is where I think this goes, is everybody's looking at this like Sinister Six. Okay, so maybe this isn't Sinister Six and this is just multiverse, and we're just playing around with that number of 6. We all know that Venom's coming. Right. Due to the end credit scene, spoilers, due to the end credit scene in Let There Be Carnage. So here's my thought. This is where I think that No Way Home, through whatever the final act of Tom Holland Spider-Man is end credits is Venom in No Way Home.
Sure.
I think that is likely. Now you're also bringing in, with the Sony stuff, some of these other ancillary Spider-Man villains, Morbius, Kraven the Hunter, those sort of things. So I think the first movie in the next trilogy is Spider-Man versus Venom. Not that as a title, but that's what the main...
That'd be awesome if that is the title.
Oh God, that would be terrible. So I think that is kind of the beginning of that trilogy. I think that the second trilogy, or the second film in that trilogy, is, some kind of exterior threat or whatever, and that's where we start to get Miles. And then I think the final act of that trilogy is Miles takes over for Peter. I think that's the direction you have to go.
I am surprised.
I also have my Miles shirt on tonight, so
cool.
There's that.
I have my Taylor Swift shirt on tonight. I'm just surprised that we haven't gotten the Kingpin. When I grew up reading Spider-Man, I mean, that was almost every comic book that wasn't Venom or Doctor, Doctor. I'm sorry, Doctor Ock. Let's say Doctor Strange, Doctor Ock. It was weird. I mean, like he was in everything. We just haven't gotten him, and like he's an interesting enough character that you could throw him in here, especially the way that this Spider-Man works. Sure. So I feel like obviously Venom is the next move, but I feel like you have to have Kingpin in some of this to whatever degree. I would love to see Miles happen. That would be awesome, just because you have to make a transition.
Yeah.
Somehow, and Miles is Miles
obvious.
is the only. It's obvious. It's the only transition.
Well, I mean, you could also get into like, Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider.
You could, but I think it's just it's so easy picking. It's like in the best possible way, because Miles is a great Spider-Man, like a great storyline. You have great characters in that, so
I'm looking at. I hope they do the right thing. Yeah. I have the list of top 20 Spider-Man villains up here as according to Game Rant. So that's whatever. Number 20, the Jackal. Not super familiar with him. J. Jonah Jameson. Tombstone. That's kind of interesting. That probably fits a little bit in with Fisk. Kingpin.
Yeah.
Hobgoblin, obviously a little bit different from Green Goblin. Shocker, which we kind of already saw in Homecoming. Electro, we're getting him. Rhino, they haven't done in the MCU just yet. Lizard's coming back for No Way Home. Chameleon is an option. Scorpion's still out there. With Michael Mando from Homecoming. Kraven the Hunter with see, that's going to be the hard part for that, though, is that the actor Aaron Taylor Johnson is playing Kraven, and he already played Quicksilver in the MCU. So they'd have to, play with that a little bit. Morbius, Sandman, Vulture, Mysterio, Venom. Venom somehow only number 5. That's interesting.
I think it's probably because they are friends in a lot of it too.
Yeah. Carnage, Kingpin, number 3, Green Goblin, Doc Ock. So we've used up a lot of, over the course of, all these movies,
20 years.
We've used up a lot of his best villains, but there's still some out there that could be somewhat compelling. The other thing is, they might play around with Black Cat.
Yeah.
Silver Sable is an option. Mr. Negative is an option. So there's things there that are options as far as villains, because I feel like, as we kind of we've alluded to, we're going to get into Kingpin a little bit. I think that they're kind of keeping him to the Daredevil street level, kind of what's going on. Whereas at this point, Spider-Man has fought, guys ripping off the Avengers, a guy who's using drones to create a quote unquote Avengers level threat. And now he's literally bringing the multiverse in. Like, he's not really a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man anymore. You know what I mean? So
he's kind of a Black Widow Spider-Man.
He's something. Yeah. But I mean,
not in the Scarlett Johansson way.
Right. But this is big news in that the interviews that he was giving up to this point were like, we're looking, this is the end, and it's going to be sad and brutal. And if I'm doing Spider-Man into my 30s, I've done something wrong. And then they turn around and say, no, we're making another 3 movies with Tom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he is also Tom Holland, so they can't tell him anything. Like, in all seriousness, I'm not even trying to be like that funny. Like, they literally can't tell him anything. Otherwise, he just will spoil. If they said there were 3 more Spider-Man, he would have said this 6 months ago and be like, the titles of the 3 Spider-Man movies are this, and here's the plot. So,
I'm still convinced that the trailers are just like, they're not even what the movie's about. It's just to try to keep him quiet.
It wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, but
2 weeks away from when this comes out.
Yeah, 2 weeks away. And I think that, did you participate in Spider Monday?
I did not.
That was the other thing I wanted to bring up, was that
yeah.
They crashed a couple ticket websites.
Mm-hmm.
So this was what the theaters needed, big time.
I mean, that was a good way. They promoted it really well. I just think, like, where I live, if it is a problem, I'll just see it Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, like, I'm not gonna like, that's just the thing. I'm too. I was working on Spider Monday, so I just couldn't have done it. But B, it's just like I can't dedicate my life to, like, I have to have tickets that first day. I will go and attempt to get tickets that first day. I'll probably buy them in the morning or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna go out of my way in a sense of anything drastic. I will buy the tickets and then see the movie. Yeah. And if I see it Saturday afternoon, then so be it.
Yeah. I will say that we will have the review on the YouTube channel the first night that we have both seen it. Yeah. So it might be Saturday, it might be Sunday.
It'll be in the weekend period.
Yeah, it'll be on the weekend. It won't be. It'll be. I say it would be no later than Sunday. So we'll have it.
Oh no problem.
But we can move on to from that to. Well, let me ask you this before we do. I mean, do you think does this? I mean, you talked about the Kingpin thing, about that possibly being an avenue they could go down. I mean, do you think that this news affects your expectations of No Way Home at all?
No. I mean, I was one of those, I'll be honest, I just never believed Tom Holland.
Right.
And so, or I fully believe him. You know what I mean? Like, either you feel like he's giving away everything or he doesn't know anything. And so, like, I just, everything he says or does, I just take with like a complete grain of salt. And so when he says this movie was like, oh, it's devastating, like, maybe it has a happy ending. Like, that's one of those things where I just don't know. Mm-hmm. So it takes nothing away from what I think this movie is going to be. I think it's still going to be pretty fun. I think the idea of Doctor Strange being in it probably really helps me in the idea of it being fun, because, like you and I have said, the original Doctor Strange movies are made better because of Doctor Strange later on in other movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think my expectations haven't really changed. I will say, like, I peaked when that second trailer that we did came out, where that trailer really gave us a lot more information. And I've plateaued. I've stayed right there. I haven't dropped. I haven't gained any from other little TV segments. So I'm still pretty excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've tried to go in with pretty neutral expectations, knowing that, it's a Spider-Man movie. It's going to probably be at least good. You know what I mean? But I think that they've done such a media blitz with this thing that I think that now expectations are really ramping up. If it's anything less than, like, very good, it's going to be a disappointment. You know what I mean? It has to be, especially because, and I think we talked a little bit about this last week, was that, Black Widow was fine, but it was overdue. Mm-hmm. And Shang-Chi was a nice introduction to a new character. And then the Eternals, for me, was kind of a flop. And I think the MCU actually, like, legitimately kind of needs a shot in the arm right now, because the series were kind of hit or miss. And I think that through 3 episodes, Hawkeye is on a great foot, and Spider-Man No Way Home is maybe just the radioactive spider bite that the MCU needs right now.
And I think the way Spider-Man works is kind of the idea of Christmas in general. Christmas is just, technically a made up holiday to break up winter. It really is. I mean, I'm not, it's celebrating the birth of Jesus, but, like, they didn't actually know the exact date. So they actually made the date in the middle of winter to break up winter, to give people a bolt of energy. And so Spider-Man coming out is to give Marvel this bolt of energy. I think Marvel Studios knew that Eternals would not be this massive, massive hit. I think they hoped it would be. They promoted it like they wanted it to be, but everyone knows.
I don't think they thought it would do as bad as it did, though. Well, not as bad.
I mean, but, it did what it did. But the bread is buttered with the Avengers and Spider-Man. At the end of the day, I mean, that's just the way it is. And it's Spider-Man comes on at the exact right point. we had not like a low, but a lull, and we're ready. And now all we're getting is Avengers, Spider-Man movies for the foreseeable future, essentially. I mean, I don't
think. Oh, okay, yeah. You mean like Thor and
like Doctor Strange isn't an Avenger, but
Black Panther.
He is.
Captain
but we're
Marvel.
getting people that are all associated with the Avengers.
Right. Rather than new.
New people. Yeah.
Do you think this will be the first post-pandemic movie to gross $1 billion?
I mean, with the new variant.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like, it sucks to say that, and I hate to bring other things out there because it's just like, no, it's just so hard. I mean, I went to a theater, when we went and saw Ghostbusters, that's actually the most packed theater I think I've been in. And that was like a random showing of it. But it wasn't the most packed. It was the second most packed theater I had. And it still was like, well, it feels like a lot of people in this theater. And, this is, you and I have been in movies, when we saw Batman together, the Dark Knight movies. I mean, we're like, you're squeezed in. They're putting people on the floor. They don't really care about fire laws. And now it's like at this point where like, oh my God, there's a person 3 feet away from me. Is this too close? And so I don't think so. I think it's just going to be really hard, but I think it will be the best grossing movie since it started. I don't think that's
right now worldwide American movies, because the battle at Lake Chong, the Battle of Lake Changjin is the best grossing movie worldwide. So we're talking about Western movies. Because actually, like, looking at
spaghetti westerns.
No, not spaghetti westerns. 3 of the top 5 are foreign movies, which is fine,
Right.
But Detective Chinatown 3 is at number 5. Something about that sounds amazing to me. Maybe we need to see if we can get a dub version of that.
Let's check it out.
No Time to Die is the best worldwide Western movie. No Time to Die, followed by Fast 9, Venom, Godzilla vs. Kong, Shang-Chi, Black Widow, Dune, in that order. You can go down Eternals number 11, 12, Free Guy, blah, 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 blah. I think it has a shot.
It's going to be close.
Omicron, leader of the COVIDicons, be damned.
The Omicron Wave.
I couldn't believe that they named the new virus after like one of Optimus Prime's mortal enemies. You can't tell me otherwise.
It was so funny because I said I thought it was a Blade Runner thing. Like it was the next Blade Runner movie. It was Blade Runner Omicron. And then Janie was like, oh, it's a Transformer. So, I mean, everyone's kind of on that right path. Right. But we will move on to more Marvel news of things that are actually happening in the present. Clint and Kate come to face to face in I was just going to do a little different in Hawkeye, episode 3, with the tracksuit boss Maya, better known as Echo. The show opens up by getting the viewer up to speed with the character that she is deaf and has a prosthetic leg. And oh, by the way, her dad was in a tracksuit and got killed by Ronan, who had suddenly returned after years of being in hiding. Clint and Kate escape with some vintage Hawkeye action. As of now, Clint's secret of being Ronan is safe, but it's inevitable that it will come out. The episode closes with the Ronan sword at Clint's neck with Jack on the other side. So, do we want to talk about it, or we can jump in the episode maybe a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that action sequence when they are escaping. Because there's nothing better than Hawkeye. There's nothing better than Clint not looking and fucking bullseyeing somebody.
I love
it. I mean, that's what he does. Archery shot, like he's Pistol Pete Maravich.
Yep.
Throw the no look pass.
Actual no look, not looking at all.
Not looking at all. Not
turning his head after he shot it.
No, there's not even any peripherals. That was like straight up Steph Curry shooting a 3, turning around, talking trash to the fans.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Exactly what that was. There is something like cool, and that's the thing. And we talked about with Hawkeye last week that his strength is acknowledging the fact that he's just a dude who's just very accurate.
Yeah,
that's a good skill to have.
Right.
To be very accurate. But when they lean into that, but then also when they take that skill and make it into complete badassery, like they did. Once they got into the car, they they did for a while one continuous shot, which, as I've said numerous times, I know when we did our Extraction retro review of the Chris Hemsworth movie that's somehow getting a sequel, that's one of my favorite like film
awesome.
techniques. I wish they would have done it longer. They only did it for probably about 30 seconds. Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean, like I said, that's one of my very favorite techniques of for filming. And so, you know, for them to do that was cool. The action in general was good. I didn't like so much the trick arrows. Like it got to the point where it was like, okay, we get it. They're all they're all different.
But I almost think they did it intentionally too. Like, because she was wondering what everything is, and he's like over it.
Yeah,
he was kind of over it too. Like, oh yeah, sure, it's this thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like it was that bit could have gone on a little bit less for me. Echo as a character seems interesting. Her backstory seems interesting. We'll get into that in a couple seconds. But I mean, I said last week I was under the assumption that she was a widow. She doesn't. I mean, that doesn't seem to be the case. Maybe that was just me jumping to conclusions based on who we know is going to show up later in the series. Spoilers. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was another very strong episode.
I think this show is way better than it needed to be good.
Yeah.
I really like it. That, you know, we talk about WandaVision was our favorite up to this.
Yeah.
You and I both agree WandaVision. Mm-hmm. I didn't necessarily agree at first, and then the more I went back and thought about, I definitely think WandaVision was the best. I think Elizabeth Olsen got robbed and of Best Actress because of what she did. This show it does everything right, and the thing that, and this is, we talk about the action, the whole thing about him not being able to hear, and he takes his hearing aid out, and like that scene where he's talking to his kid and Kate's that's like a great scene. I mean, whether that's in a Marvel movie or that's just in, a drama, where Steve Carell steps aside from, doing The Office and does this dramatic movie. That's what it felt like to me. And it's just, that was a really, really good scene. And this show, and it did it seamlessly. They had their battle. They did the thing where they leap off and you see him, falling backwards, and he connects. And so you get like this perfect Hawkeye scene of him being just a total badass. And then the next scene is like so not what you think of when you think of like a badass. He has his hearing aid out. He can't hear anything. He's trying to like talk to his kid, and Kate's relaying the information to him. It's like he goes from this super awesome superhero who isn't actually a superhero to like actually showing that as I am not even just a normal person, but I'm a person with like actual like a deformity now because
of my
I've been through so much crap.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. I mean, this episode to me is the best so far. And I have this thing where it's 6 episodes. So we're halfway through.
Yeah.
I think every episode is going to get better. And I think the 6th episode is going to just kind of blow us out of the water with either where we're headed or just the way we, go with Hawkeye's storyline. I'm very excited for where it goes next. But that leads us. Oh, go ahead, Brenton.
Yeah, I agree with you in the sense that it continues to get stronger. Whereas I feel like they do a good job, Marvel, of nailing that sort of mentor-mentee on-screen relationship. You had it with Tony and Iron Man, or I'm sorry, Tony and Spider-Man, Tony and Peter. Some of the other, characters that they've kind of portrayed that way, but when it's 2 guys who were kind of on the same like playing field, that's why I don't think necessarily the Falcon and the Winter Soldier worked as well, because it was goofy, it was like way too much. They tried way too hard, I think, to try to make it funny. And Hawkeye so far has just the right amount of humor, and it has like, I think it has subtle humor, like the LARPing scene, because basically at this point, that's what Clint thinks that he does. Yeah, pretty much as an Avenger, he's just a live action role player. He's just a dude with a bow and arrow. I liked the scene where she drew him a new suit, and it's like his original suit from the comic. That was awesome.
Yeah,
that was funny.
That was great.
I liked the scene where they were on the subway and she's like, oh man, we're communicating, we're really getting it. And then he goes, you need to let that dog out because he can't, because he can't hear that well. I thought that was a good moment of levity. But it was a moment of levity, but it also kind of continues to bring you back to the fact that Clint Barton has been beat to hell over the last, however long. So,
it's cool to see, because we don't get that with, Falcon and the Winter Soldier too, because obviously, Bucky has a superhero, but, Sam doesn't. He doesn't have anything. Right. And he doesn't get the beat to hell look. And, even though he's just a normal guy who has gone through it, but we won't get that with him. We kind of get the more of the Captain America vibe of like, oh, I can get through anything. Yeah. I can fall. And, that's the cool thing about Hawkeye is that I think everyone likes, it's one of those things too where like Jeremy Renner just as an actor is like pretty much 100% with everyone. I don't think there's a person out there, there's never heard anything bad about him. And so he's a very likable person. He's probably, we always say every person that kind of ended up being in the Marvel universe has been the perfect person for it. But like he really is. Hawkeye's this guy that normally is a kind of, when you think of that comic book character, it's a guy that's very accurate. Sounds boring.
Right.
But they make fun of it. And he does it so well because he's Jeremy Renner. He's kind of that man of town. He's not Chris Evans, handsome, but he's also just like a cool guy. Like Jeremy Renner seems like a cool hang. And that makes Hawkeye a cool hang. Right. And this is kind of what this show is based off of. But to, elaborate further on this episode, we want to talk about Echo. Who is Echo? She made her first appearance in Daredevil #9 in December 1999. She is primarily a character in Daredevil. She is also the adopted daughter of Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. Kingpin, which is the prevailing theory at this time of who her mysterious uncle is in the show. We're sure it's not Uncle CT.
We're sure it's not Uncle CT. There was a 3-second laugh that I must have missed, but there was a 3-second laugh in the episode that everybody on the internet has declared that they've positively identified as Vincent D'Onofrio, who played Wilson Fisk in the Daredevil Netflix series, which is supposedly not canon to the MCU.
Right.
The other thing is that there are rumors galore that Charlie Cox is going to show up as Matt Murdock in No Way Home, which would then bring the Daredevil character back in. So mostly everyone's about 99% sure that this is Vincent D'Onofrio and it's Kingpin, and that's going to play a larger role moving forward. And that's why I kind of feel like if Kingpin's coming into the TV series, and he's obviously going to be in probably a main role in the Echo series, which was confirmed to be a spinoff from Hawkeye. I kind of find it harder to believe that he would show up as a big bad in a Spider-Man movie. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but some of these characters outside of He Who Remains, Kang the Conqueror from the Loki series that are the bad guys, I think are like street level bad guys. You know what I mean? They're going to keep like Agatha's getting a TV series. She's not getting a movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're not going to see the Flag Smashers anytime on the big screen. Like that's played out from Captain America, or we both keep doing that, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So it'd be difficult kind of for me to see them jumping that up to the big screen. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think that this is Kingpin and this is how they're going to roll?
It seems like it's Kingpin based on like what you said, the laugh. My hope was, and I said what I said earlier with Spider-Man because I know of this. Yeah. And my hope was that, we get Kingpin and then this evolves into, because we're still in New York.
Right.
And, it's not that we always kind of joke around. Everyone jokes around. That's the one like flaw with the MCU, even though it doesn't really, it's not that big, but, buildings are falling down everywhere. And yet like, where is certain characters? Yeah. And that's like the joke that people make about the MCU. But maybe this is kind of where things sort of maybe tie together with New York City is that we had the Hawkeye character lead into Kingpin, which, leads us somehow into Spider-Man. I mean, that's why I said what I said, because of this. It would be cool if my biggest issue is I'm not a big Daredevil person. I just never have been. It has nothing to do with the Ben Affleck movies. I tried reading those comic books and they just didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. And I actually gave it an effort. I really did. This wasn't like Guardians of the Galaxy. This wasn't like some of the other things where I just never read before for, whatever reason. Guardians actually is fairly, recent in the scheme of like what they actually, from what the comic book is, or the movies are based off the comic book.
Yeah.
So it's, if you want to bring Daredevil in, hopefully it's secondary. Hopefully it is something where we're not trying to do Daredevil, because I don't think that works. And I hope this is more of a way to bring Spider-Man or Kingpin into the Spider-Man universe. But I also hope this is just a way to like keep Hawkeye around in whatever degree we need to, because like I said, he's such a likable character and such a character that makes everything else seem less like crazy.
Yeah.
In the sense of like everyone else is flying around, has magic powers, has, can stick to walls, space creatures.
Yeah.
And then there's a guy shooting arrows.
Right.
And I think we still, no matter what, we need that, because we don't have all the things aside, we don't have Tony Stark anymore.
Right.
And literally he is just the smart guy. Beyond, I mean, I don't want to go in like, he had no other powers other than he was just a very smart scientist who was able to create things.
Billionaire playboy philanthropist.
Exactly. Billionaire playboy philanthropist. And so like, there's nothing else about him that is like extraordinary in the sense of powers. He just, right. And we still need that in the MCU. Yeah. You and I talk about the groundedness of things, and I love Captain America, but he still was, he had superhuman serum put in him. So as much as that's grounded, there's still this thing that we can't relate. The thing about Hawkeye is nobody could ever be perfect. He shot 18, he played 18, he shot 18. We can't do that. We can't relate to that. But there is the relatability of like, holy crap, I listen to a lot of loud music. My hearing's not as good as it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that. So my hope is that no matter what we do with this show, and like, I like the Kingpin effect of him being in it, is that we somehow keep Hawkeye a part of this, or Kate,
I certainly think that my prevailing theory, and I think this is the prevailing theory of a lot of people, is that you're going to get young Avengers. Yeah. They're certainly headed down that path with like Speed and Wiccan and Kate Bishop and some of these other characters that have shown up here and there. Maybe Miles Morales, we'll see. So I definitely think we're going to keep Kate around. I think she's going to be in it for the long haul. What happens to Clint is maybe a little bit up in the air. I hope he doesn't die. Like, that would really suck if he died.
There's no way they can't kill him. He has to retire. Kill him on a
fucking Disney Plus show.
They just can't kill him because he has a family and children. And like, that would be devastating. I would have to take like a week off of work.
That would be rough.
It would be super. We can't do that. Whatever you do, MCU, just have him retire.
Just have him retire.
Like, we get this note from Tony that says like, this space, not the space, and this holographic note that like, Clint, when you want to hang it up, hit this button, and you do it, and it's a holograph, and it's Tony like, hey, I have my place up by the lake. I have another one. You can live by my family.
Right.
Bring yours up. Let's we'll, I won't be there, but hang out with Gwyneth and let's do the stuff.
So with that,
let
us move from one legend who will never retire to another legend who will never retire. The Challenge, episode 17, Spies, Lies, and Allies. CT. That's the summey. That's the episode summary.
That's the episode. That's all it needs to be, because we, I can say we joke around this being the fourth, major sport. When I watch CT jump around that whole thing, the gauntlet with people throwing bags.
So let's do we'll do an actual summary. The Daily Challenge teams were suspended over the ocean on a narrow beam. They had to make their way from one side to the other while the other teams threw large bean bags at them, bombs. Then they had to retrieve a like secret mission canister tube and make it back to the other side. There was 10 available. Realizing that no one on his team was going to make it back and forth, CT just went back and forth and got the other 7 by himself, just him.
Yep.
The red team only got 2 as an entire team of Logan, Nelson, and Tori. And the Emerald team with 5 players also only got 7. They got 7, but they did it slower than CT did it by himself. So CT's cell, the Sapphire cell of Emmy, Kyle, and CT won and became the agency. The vote to determine who would go into the elimination was kind of came down to Emmanuel. I think the remote just fell off the couch in the other room. Scared the shit out of me. It came down to Emmanuel and Logan, and neither of them would say anything. So They just voted in Logan because he hadn't been. I don't even know why they voted him in. Honestly, I didn't catch it. CT was just basically saying somebody say something. I was a little bit surprised that they voted him.
They should have. Yeah, I was surprised they didn't vote in Emmanuel. Yeah.
So then Logan chose to compete against Emmanuel in a not very fun elimination challenge. They had to run. They're in the sand. They had to run. They had to hurdle a hurdle that was in the shape of a missile. They had to flip a switch.
Was it called Rocket Run?
I think it was called Rocket Run. They had to flip a switch. They had to run back, hurdle the thing again, and then flip a switch. And they had 15 seconds to do it. And when TJ or the producers or whoever realized that 15 seconds was far too long,
yes,
they dropped it down to 10 seconds. And it wasn't like who won the race. It wasn't like who did it faster. It was just finished before the time's up. And they dropped it down in 10 seconds. And I said to Melissa as we were watching, I was like, somebody's going to fall and that's how they're going to win. Somebody's going to trip over the thing. And not 2 seconds later, Logan fell. And that was the end of that. And then we learned that tonight is the night of eliminations. And that's where things are kind of left in the balance because 2 more people are going to be eliminated. And this is where I'm actually fearful for CT. A little bit, because these are the screwy things that happen.
Yeah, this is the stuff that throws a wrench in this whole mechanism.
Yeah.
The thing I will say, I'm going to go backwards and then to CT because I feel like maybe we finish with the cherry on top, which is CT's performance. So I'm not sure why Logan picked Emmanuel when Emmanuel
is a man of the team.
Is a good,
He's a man of the team.
There's $1 million.
Probably should have picked Devin.
There's $1 million and Devin has rolls of fat.
Yeah.
I don't care what the challenge would have been. And I'm not making fun of Devin because Devin's gotten in shape because he has an OnlyFans account now. God. So it is what it is. Hey, we follow these characters. We got to know what they're doing.
Right.
And they are characters, not people. Come on if you want to dispute otherwise, people on this show or characters on this show, come on the show and talk it out. I told Big C she needs to be brave to be on this show and she hasn't responded back. Big T.
She's done,
but I want her to come on and talk about it.
Yeah,
why wouldn't that be great? You have to be brave to be on our show.
I don't think Big T would have to be brave, but anyway.
But anyhow, so it's like if there's $1 million, you and I have talked about, we would throw each other in.
Yeah, 100%.
If it was a haul, $1,000.
If it was a haul, I'd throw you in for.
Well, we don't. Let's say context out. Like, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's just like if I know the best chance for me to win is beating you. Let's just say it that way. Whatever it is, whatever it is, I'm throwing you in, Brent. I'm like, I'm not like, this is, and at the end you'd be like, I understand.
If
you're actually a friend of a person. That's the thing.
I turned to Melissa and I said, Amanda's the only person that gets this.
Yep. She's like, it's for $1 million.
For $1 million.
And it's like, and it's so funny to me because like she's the only one that has like a real job. Like she's a nurse.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't actually. So that's why she gets it, because I think she didn't grow up with like great, like I don't think she had a great childhood.
Right.
And her upbringing was not awesome. And so she's had to like work hard for her living. And she's still a nurse, still, you know, that's what she does, is her occupation. And she has a kid. And like, it's like, if someone's actually your friend, you're gonna be like, I have to throw you in because like I'm trying to win this thing. This isn't me trying to lose.
Winning.
Like
it's about winning. And that's what I mean.
Yeah,
I would throw you I would throw you into a hall brawl for a fucking ham sandwich. Because it's about winning.
I was not for a ham sandwich. Just, I mean, that's
extra mustard.
I mean, okay, maybe fair enough.
Maybe a
it's on this
cheeseburger.
I was just hoping it'd be like actual money. Yeah, I hope you say like $5. That would make me feel better than a ham sandwich. But yeah, I'll tell you what. If it was like a ham sandwich from a nice deli, then I'd be like, all right, you know, they're cutting it there. Okay.
I'm not. It's not like I'm getting a lunch meat at like Giant Eagle.
Yeah, you're not putting a lunch
meat like a gourmet ham sandwich.
Okay, fair enough. I respect that. Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. It's like you're trying to win. And this is what bugs me. Like I've joked around about this whole show a lot of times, but I think if my career path would have went a different way, and like, let's just say my college went a different way and I ended up going on the real world and I decided to be on this show, like I have the mentality of this show. I'm not saying I would have won like the way but I definitely would have understood the mentality of the show is like, I don't care about this friendship stuff.
Loyalty shit.
This loyalty crap. Cause like the second you're out of there, who gives like the loyalty thing? We see it all the time. Like no one even gives a crap about that. That's the thing that's so funny to me is like, actually no one cares at the end of the day. It's just who, like Devin's like, oh, I was able to do all this stuff. I can't believe that now there's this thing at the end, which is now I'll talk about that. It's just Devin didn't do anything. I don't even know what Devin did. That's the weird thing. And
he was on the team that won the most.
Right. And that's just literally what he did.
He's going to the finals in the same way that Daniel Gibson went to the finals.
You're not wrong. And we like Devin. That's the thing too, where we've like talked about how we actually like Devin. This is his worst season and it's not even close. He's been out of shape. He really hasn't been able to do the political thing that well. He just thinks he does because he keeps winning. And, but that aside, now I'm going to go to what actually, to me.
Let me go ahead. If you want to hop in for a second on the whole like strategy thing. The whole Vets Alliance was bunk from the jump, because if you're running a final, like if I'm in a final and the final is an ice cream eating contest, I want 4 people sitting next to me that are lactose intolerant.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if I'm running a final and it's on the challenge and it's running, stamina, being able to solve puzzles, being able to eat gross shit.
Yeah.
Whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, well, there's somebody here that checks all those boxes. And I think this will segue nicely into what you have to say. I would have been voting CT in every single week.
Yes.
Because why let that monster lurk until the end and then be like, oh, well, he got me. So you had the chance to get him.
And this is, and you set me up literally so perfectly. This is, you had like just a very light backhand, and I got my forehand ready to just hammer this thing home for the winner. CT was awesome in this episode. Okay. He was nimble like a ballet dancer doing the Nutcracker. It was so impressive watching him do this. Okay. It was just because it's Christmas time and the Nutcracker played during Hawkeye. So I got that in my head. When you watch, and I'll get into this with our football segment that we're doing, but when you watch a football game, and the offensive line just keeps running, they're able to run the ball. And everyone always credits the running back. But we know who actually brings the running game. It's those guys on the line. And it is eventually wear down the defensive line so much that defensive line just kind of gives up. If you just keep throwing CT in, CT's a big, strong guy, but he's also still a human being, like Hawkeye. He's eventually going to wear down. And it's like, that's the thing. It's like we talked about how we've said this the entire season. You vote him in, you try to wear him down. He may win, and he may have won enough to get this far, but he's been beaten down. Physical things are still physical things. They take a toll on your body. I mean, that's just the way it is. And it's surprising to me and why I'm saying this is he looked fresh as a daisy doing that, because no one's done anything to him. He's just been able to lounge this entire season. And now everyone's like, CT, man. Like Devin was like, look at this guy. It's like, we all had the chance to throw him in.
Yeah.
Because of some stupid thing that doesn't even matter. This whole alliance, this is so stupid. I hate alliances in anything, whether it's Risk or the Challenge. I hate alliances because none of this matters. We're all just trying. One person should be trying to win or whatever it is. It bugs me, and that's why I wanted to hold CT to the end for me, because it all still comes back to the beginning is the end of this episode. Is you could have had CT in this, and he might have been worn down, and he may have tripped over a rocket. We love CT. He's an animal, but anyone's still capable of tripping over a rocket and losing, and then he's not in the final.
What a sentence. What a sentence to be said. This is the other thing that I didn't understand is he went first.
Right.
He went first. Why did no one else look at it and go, oh, you mean if I'm starting to get knocked off the beam, I can just grab the ball that's knocking me off and steady myself and then proceed? Because he did that every single time.
Yep.
And nobody else did that.
No.
Like Devin and Casey kind of figured it out towards the end. There's no excuse after they saw him do that the other two teams didn't get 10 apiece. There's no excuse.
Right. It was
learn, like do some learning.
I guess maybe this is why it's the fourth sport and not, not in the top three. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think it doesn't change who I think ends up going away home with anything right now.
No,
I think CT is still your favorite.
Yeah.
Right. I still really like Amanda. It's one of those weird things where now that she's gone this far, I just don't know. I don't think any.
That's a 2-horse race. That's a 2-horse race.
Casey
and Tori.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think Emmy will fold under pressure.
Oh, Emmy, I don't trust Emmy. I don't trust Emmy at the end. No.
I think she'll fold under pressure.
Yeah.
I think if Casey can make it through, this is assuming that there's a male winner and a female winner.
Right.
I think my opinion is that if Casey makes it through without a freak accident again, because I think this is 2 in a row or at least one.
Yeah.
I know she had the knee.
2 in a row.
Like she had an ankle in the previous season. I feel like if she's there, she's the winner. And I feel like if CT's there, he's the winner. Devin doesn't have the stamina. Take him off the board.
No. Yeah, he's done.
Take him off the board. Honestly, if I could say a dark horse right now for the guys, it would actually probably be Manuel. He obviously has the stamina. He's quick. And I mean, he grew up in Romania, so he's probably eating gross shit all the time. It's probably like fine cuisine to him. So he's got that. A lot of it comes down to, I kind of see, I'm starting to think that if they're going to eliminate 2 more, then there's going to be 4 and 4. And I wonder if they're going to be like, okay, there's 4 legs to this, or there's 5 legs to this. And you have to have another partner. You can't have the same one every time. And then the last one, you're on your own sort of deal. So then it becomes communication.
Yeah.
And Nelson's not great with that. He's also not great with puzzles. He's a physical specimen. Kyle,
great dresser.
Oh, that jacket was something else, wasn't it?
I loved it. I was like, I need that in my collection.
Kyle is kind of like, the thing about Kyle is I feel like he's not bad at anything, but he's also not great at anything.
He's just Charlie Day and Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's a wild card.
Yeah.
He could be awesome. He could be terrible.
Yeah. So, well, we'll see. I think we've got 2 more episodes. I think it's going to probably
that sounds about right, because they want to end it before Christmas.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. So we'll move from I guess this is a 180. I don't even know what we're going to do here, but we're going to move to Cowboy Bebop episodes 4 through 6. We'll run through the episodes and then we'll talk about them. Episode 4, Callisto's Soul. After eco-terrorists screw up her attempted shakedown, Faye enlists Spike and Jet to help her bring them in for a bounty. Episode 5, Dark Side Tango. Jet reunites with his ex-partner to track down a recently released criminal. While he's away, Spike and Faye try to pick up a quick job. And episode 6, the binary two-step. When the Bebop needs repairs, Jet sends Spike to chase down a tip on a phantom bounty to cover the cost, leaving Faye to supervise the mechanic. So, you know, I think for me to start off, this was a really solid trio of episodes. And, based on the actual, anime or whatever, it is what it is. I mean, we've talked about that where the characters aren't necessarily 100% accurate with what we're trying to do. But I thought episode 5 was the strongest episode so far. And that may be just, I like the rapport between Spike and Faye. I thought that was really cool. But Brenton, what did you think? I mean, you're obviously way more of like someone that can break this down more than I am. I enjoy both. I've enjoyed this so far, and I enjoyed the anime. But what are your thoughts now going on this?
I liked episode 4 pretty well. It was pretty close to the corollary episode within the anime. A couple differences. They were in the anime using a bomb or a drug called monkey business, which turns the person who's afflicted with it into a monkey. In the show, it was like a tree thing. They turn you into a tree. And I kind of actually like that a little bit better than the monkey thing,
because that was cool.
They're supposed to be eco terrorists. So that was I kind of like that. And I felt like I think that is a very interesting plot device, having eco terrorists, because they're terrorists, right? And so there is that aspect of it. But the other side of it is that they're trying to protect, the environment, which is, some might see that as a noble cause. And it actually it's interesting a little bit because, the anime came out in 98, 99, which was also around the same time as Final Fantasy VII. And at the beginning of Final Fantasy VII, that's what those characters are, is they're eco-terrorists. And you could actually look at it as they're, from that point of view, that they're really the bad guys, you know what I mean? Because they're blowing things up and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of a neat plot device. I liked it in the anime. I really liked it in this episode. Of these 3 episodes, that was probably my favorite episode.
Okay.
Dark Side Tango with Jet and his ex-partner, and then Spike and Faye trying to figure out a job, was a pretty close corollary as well to the episode that it was represented from the original anime. It was good. I thought it showed a lot about Jet, like where he was, filled out his backstory a little bit more, which I think is necessary with him being one of the primary characters. I didn't care for Binary Two-Step
that episode
so much for a couple reasons. I like I said last week, I think the kind of the creative license that they've had to sort of fill out the backstory of Vicious and Julia was really a sore spot for me within the series. It wasn't anything that I was too interested in, and I've seen that's a big criticism of the show throughout, online and such. I also didn't like the Faye and the mechanic.
That felt
unnecessary. Yeah, it felt super unnecessary to me.
Because the Faye and Spike and 5, and that's probably why I liked it so much. And I watched these almost like back to back. I felt like the Spike and Faye thing was so natural because she does the shower thing, and like it was just that was so nice. And like they have their beers, and she shows the scene with the dog as she's doing the tango, which was great. And he's just like enjoying it. Like he really enjoyed it, and it seemed not forced at all.
Yeah.
And in the 6th episode, I thought not just that relationship, but just everything kind of seemed forced in the 6th episode. It felt like they were trying to do too much. And the thing about the anime was that never seemed forced. Everything seemed super just as in the flow. And like, yeah, that's why I think I liked 5 so much. And 4 was really good too. But 5 was, for me, it's my favorite actual episode so far that I've watched.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I've already been through the series. So
yeah, you've been through it.
The first episode is probably up there. 4 is up there for me, and then some of the later episodes as well. But I think that this show, the live action show, is at its best when Spike, Jet, and Faye are sharing the screen or sharing the time together, rather than some of these kind of ancillary characters.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to, what are they doing together, then it's at its best, versus, Spike's off on his thing, Jet's doing his thing, Faye's hooking up with the mechanic. That was weird. I didn't like that.
Yeah, that was weird.
So yeah, but next week we'll wrap it up with 7 through 10.
Yeah.
And I expect a second season is going to be announced here.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
By the end of the month, even though it hasn't done super well, like critically, it was the most watched series over the past 2 weeks on Netflix.
That's more important than anything.
Yes, it is. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm up. Call it. We'll move on. I'm sorry. I'm had a stroke. We're going to move on to college football. We don't talk a lot about sports, but this week in college football kind of hits both of us a little bit in the feels. So we rarely, if ever, have discussed college football in the program, but when both of our teams are actually good this year, knock on wood, we must discuss. Michigan plays Iowa and Indianapolis for the Big Ten title, and Pitt plays Wake Forest for the ACC title. And let's hope that they perform better at Bank of America Stadium than the Panthers team that typically plays there. The other big game of consequence this week is the SEC title game between Georgia and Alabama. The weekend will decide who will play in the college football playoff and who the Heisman winner will be. Heisman odds: Bryce Young, Alabama quarterback, minus 200. CJ Stroud, Ohio State, plus 450. Aiden Hutchinson, Michigan defensive end, plus 1,600. Kenny Pickett, Pitt quarterback, plus 1,800. Matt Corral, Ole Miss, plus 200. 2,000. Sorry. Yeah.
So, I'm a Michigan fan. You're a Pitt fan, just in case people don't understand this. I grew up. I was 5. My family. I'll just explain my Michigan background for those who don't know. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, just like Brenton did. My family was actually not really into sports as much as I am into sports. My family really wasn't, but there were days where sports were just on, and Thanksgiving weekend was, when sports were on. And so that's why I'm a Lions fan, because football was on Thanksgiving and Barry Sanders was running around and I liked him, and Michigan, Ohio State was always on. And I always liked the color blue, and I did not like the color red, and Michigan wore blue, and Desmond Howard was running around. And that's literally the reason why I liked Michigan. I think that's a lot of the reason, unless you have your family ties, if there's nothing else, you kind of just pick colors you like as a kid. And you're like, let me run with this. This is why, So that aside, I'm watching, Michigan beat Ohio State for the first time in 10 years. And Janie said to me, she said to her mom when we went over to their house later that day, I've never seen Greg like that. Not I've never seen Greg like that watching sports. I've never seen Greg like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it got dusty in the room because I didn't know what to do. I wasn't like Niagara Falls or anything, but I literally just didn't know what to do. I was 26. I still lived in Pennsylvania at the time. I watched that game with Bob Sacamano. This was a thing where an entire life of mine has changed since this has happened. I didn't know what to do. I went through a range of emotions of when Michigan looked very dominant. I was so skeptical. I was very scared. I kept telling myself, Ohio State's going to come back. They're going to win this game. Don't get excited. And I kept telling myself not to get excited. And there's like a minute left. And Janie's like, this game's over, right? And I go, until that says 3-0 in this series, I can't rely on anything. And then they won. And I just laid on our futon, or on our, like, I don't even know what you want to call it. It's just this thing. It's not a couch. It's whatever. I just laid on it on my stomach. I just laid on there. And I just kept watching Michigan highlights. And that's all I did. And anyone that's a sports fan, when your team wins something big, all you do is watch that highlight. You don't care about anything else.
Yeah, 100%.
So other games are happening. I don't care. The Michigan game's around, it started at 9 my time and it ends around 12:30 my time in the afternoon. I only watched Michigan things until 2:00. So for an hour and a half, all I did was watch Michigan highlights or listen to people talk about Michigan because I didn't know what to do. I was like, this is the happiest I've ever been. And I'm not sure I necessarily cracked a smile. I may have laughed like sarcastically about things, but I had no other emotion. And now they're playing for the Big Ten title against a team that I feel confident about, but it is college football and these are still, kids. Essentially, these are still kids. I know they're, a lot of these guys are in their 20s, but I remember being 22 and I was still a kid. You are. And so a lot of things can happen. But I can say in my adult college football thing, and I've cared a lot about different things, but the older I've got, I've generally cared more about one thing than the other, and that's Michigan football. This is the happiest I've been about Michigan football that I can remember. And I can remember 97 winning the national championship, but I was 12. And you kind of just thought that's the way things are. I'm 36 now.
Right.
And that's not the way things are. I'm confident. I would like to say I expect them to win. If they play like they did against Ohio State, I expect them to win. I still, if they win, they're going to be in the college football playoff, and I will lose my mind. And if they lose in that first game, if they play Alabama, they lose, it's still a great season. It's beyond expectation. But I'm going to say I'm savoring this moment so much. I mean, Janie got me a Michigan tie that played the fight song, and it's an old tie from the 70s, so the fight song doesn't really play. She was going to give me that for Christmas, and she gave it to me because she saw how I was. And, and she gave it to me early because of that win over Ohio State. And it's, it's weird talking about this, but it's like when you care about something so much and it actually happens, it means a lot. And it's weird to talk about things like this that aren't actually important.
Right.
But it means a lot. It meant a lot to me. My whole weekend was based on that game. At 12:30, one way or the other, I knew I was either going to be happy or sad the rest of the weekend. But we will move on to you, Brenton, and Pitt. That's your favorite college. And
yeah, it's my favorite team because fuck Penn State.
Well, we both agree on that.
End of explanation.
Sorry, Mom.
No, I mean, my mom went to Pitt for a couple of years. She actually lived in the same row of houses as Ty. And it's just one of those things.
With Ty, or I don't remember that. Oh, okay.
As Ty. It's just like I hate all the Pittsburgh pro teams. I hate them. All of them. And like
you do.
I hate the Steelers so much. And I hate the Pirates. I hate the Pirates so much. I hate the Penguins just on principle. I don't even care about hockey. I just hate them on principle at this point. But I think because Pitt has that sort of, they're not like the University of Pittsburgh is not Ohio State. It's not Michigan. It's not Alabama. It's not Clemson. Like nobody gives a shit about what Pitt does every Saturday. They haven't sold out Heinz Field ever, which is where they play their.
That's a travesty, by the way. I think
that's probably not true. Like they've probably sold out like Notre Dame and games like that.
Regardless, that should be a sellout every week. I'm sorry, that should be a sellout every week.
They don't have enough. There's not enough students. It's not a campus with 70,000 students like Penn State. that has all these alumni. You know what I mean? And so that's the thing. It's like, I've always respected like the coaches at Pitt, specifically Howland and Dixon on the basketball side, because they were always getting kids that were not top rated prospects, not very few McDonald's All-Americans. I think they had like 2 in their whole run. You know what I mean? And yet they were still Big East champions constantly. Big East runner up, number 1 seed in the tournament. You know, football down obviously for a long time, but Narduzzi is starting to do the same thing where he's not getting the best recruits, but they're the only team from that division who's won it twice. Now, granted, the champion always comes out of the other division with Clemson or Florida State, but this is an opportunity for them to kind of put their stamp on things. You know, I mean, granted, the winner of this game is not going to be invited to the college football playoff,
but they're going to a New Year's Bowl. Like, or a Christmas, like, you know, they're going to a big bowl game.
They'll go to a big bowl game. The reality of it is that, like, I watched the 2 games that they lost. This team should be 12-0, getting ready to get murdered by Georgia. Like,
I would say, at worst, this team actually should be 11-1.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to say because, you know, we can always look at one thing or the other to be like, oh, we could have been undefeated.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, I don't really care about Pitt one way or the other than I love those jerseys. Yeah. I love those jerseys. I went to Point Park. I went to school in Pittsburgh, but I'm not a Pitt fan. Right. I just, you know, I'm not against Pitt. It's one of those things. They're one of those teams where I root for them because you root for them and Ty roots for them.
Yeah.
And so I root for them to do well. And also those jerseys are sick. Keep those colorways forever. So we actually mentioned, but
now that it's kind of broken down.
Yeah.
There's
our love.
4 big games, 3 big games.
There's more than just the 4 that I mentioned, but for the sake of the college football playoff, in Oklahoma State,
Baylor,
you know, they have a big game too for the Big 12.
The big whatever.
The Big 12. And so they, you know, they'll be in it, and we, you know, Cincinnati will probably be in it.
Whatever.
Yeah, the
Oregon
and
Utah.
Cincinnati, if they beat Houston, will be in the playoff too, and they're undefeated, and they're Cincinnati. Yeah. So whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's cool that we can talk about our teams, Brenton. I don't remember the last time that you and I could actually like literally say like, this is exciting time of the year for us in college football.
Never.
In our friendship,
Pitt hasn't won 10 games in 40 years.
Right. So you know, it's
like
cool
even
for
the
us.
Season that they went to, they were the Big East representative whenever it was the BCS, and they got annihilated by Utah, the Alex Smith Utah team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I mean, Rod Rutherford and Larry Fitzgerald, but that's going back 20 years.
Right. Like it's crazy to think like that.
In college.
Larry Fitzgerald got robbed of the Heisman, by the way.
Agreed.
That was
so
amazing.
Do you think of these? I think with Stroud laying an egg against Michigan that he's out. Get rid of him. He
should be out. I mean, these are the current odds of this morning. I forget which website. It was a Las Vegas website. I mean, they're all fairly similar. This one seemed like the most accurate to me.
Right.
The Bryce Young thing, if he loses to Georgia, I mean, he's got to be out.
Yeah.
I think if Aiden Hutchinson, I was surprised to see him this high. I think if he puts up he has to, honestly, for him to have a shot to win, he has to put up another like 3-sack game against Iowa.
Yeah.
And that seems hard for a defensive end.
It's tough for a defensive player in the Heisman.
I mean, for me, if I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the games, I mean, it's Kenny Pickett's to lose. If he comes up there, and I know he's plus, 1,800 right now, but if he goes out there and and absolutely just kills it, then,
Well, he's got there's a lot of historical panache for Pickett. He broke all of Dan Marino's records, and he has a chance to break the single season touchdown passing touchdown record for the ACC.
Right.
He's only got to throw like 2.
Yep.
And he averages like 3.8 a game.
And Wake Forest defense sucks.
It's terrible. Right. And that's
that
why
game's going to be
it's going to be the
best game. it's gonna be it's either gonna be the best game or the worst game of the weekend. That's where the way I look at it. Somehow, like sometimes when teams like this get together, it's somehow like a slop fest.
Yeah.
But my hope is it's 59-56.
I fully expect one of the teams to score 50 points.
I hope so. I mean, it's on the same time as Michigan. So
what time's Michigan?
They're both 8 o'clock Eastern.
Oh, they're both at 8. Okay.
Yeah. So I will probably, what I'll end up doing is I'll have the Pitt game on the computer and then the Michigan game on the big screen. But I mean, it's fun. It's fun to care. And we're going go blue, go Pitt.
It's really fun. And this is like part of the reason that I hate Steeler fans is they think Super Bowl trophies grow on trees. It is fun. And I consider like all the teams that I root for are like classically teams that never win. I mean, I'm a Cleveland fan, for God's sakes. They haven't won a World Series since World War II. It's no joke. You know what I mean? And like Cleveland was really lucky that one of the 2 best basketball players of all time grew up right down the road.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was like you were saying, like when you root for a team for so long and they win something finally, it's like you can't even describe it. I remember when the Cavs won the NBA championship, beat the 73-9 Warriors. I like didn't know what to do. I just like I just sat on my living room floor and just like shook back and forth like I was in an insane asylum.
It's the best and weirdest feeling.
Yeah.
I hope everyone that's listening can feel that feeling, unless you root for Ohio State, Duke. I think that's it for me. I don't really hate any other schools except for Ohio State and Duke that much. Michigan State I hate a lot, but I don't hate them as much. But Duke and Ohio State, that's kind of my like, Notre Dame. I'm sorry. Notre Dame. And that's only because there's some sort of sense of entitlement that they have. But beyond that,
Penn State,
mostly
for me, it's Penn State.
And I understand that.
And West Virginia. West Virginia.
Well, we don't have to worry about West Virginia ever winning anything. So they'll never have that feeling.
All right, let's move on. We spent too much time on this.
That was awesome, though. I mean, that was fun, though. That was fun. People don't, that's the other side that people don't know about us. So,
yeah.
We will move on to the pop culture potpourri for 1,000. Stellan Skarsgård commentary on Marvel and non-blockbuster movies. He's just like, there's no mid-level movies anymore.
Yeah, I have his exact quote. I've got nothing against superhero movies. I've been in a couple and they definitely have a place. The problem is that the system that allows 8 people to own half of the wealth in the world enhances the power of the market forces. So small and independent cinemas rarely exist anymore outside of a few big cities. There's no distribution channels for all the mid-budget films that have the best actors, the best writing, because they can't throw up $3 million for a marketing campaign. When cinemas let them in, they do so for 1 week, and if it doesn't pay off in a week, they're gone. He continued, remember that The Godfather first opened in 100 cinemas in the United States. Big films now open in 4,000. They had small ads in the New York Times, but it grew and grew because it was such a good film. The people's opinion has no chance anymore, and that is sad. I think that we should have Marvel films and more roller coaster films. We should have other films too, and that's the sad thing. When raw market forces come in, studios start being run by companies that don't care if they're dealing in films or toothpaste as long as they get their 10% return. When AT&T took over Time Warner, it immediately told HBO to become lighter and more commercial. They were always making money, not enough for the investor. And I think that really hits the nail on the head.
Yeah,
it really does. You know what I mean?
It does.
I think that it was very well said. And I think that it's gives maybe a little bit more insight into why people like Martin Scorsese and Ridley Scott are frustrated.
Yep.
Because I don't think that it actually has anything to do with Marvel movies.
No, it doesn't. It's just there is no middle ground now. No. And that's sad. And I get that. It's unfortunately it is what it is at this point. Although things tend to work themselves back. Yeah. And so there's probably a point where like middle ground movies will be the thing again.
Well, and right now is so convoluted because it's almost like the hose being coiled up effect, and then you let it go and everything comes out at once because we went a year without movies, basically. So, now there's no way in a typical year that you would have gotten 4 Marvel movies: Ghostbusters, James Bond, Dune, Venom, Fast 9. You know what I mean? You get maybe like
crazy
3 or 4 of those movies. You don't get all of them at once. So, and that's even from like June on. So really in just 6 months, we've gotten all that. But yeah, I think that has a big effect on it as well.
It has to. In addition to her commentary on Tom Holland MCU, Spider-Man producer Amy Pascal confirmed that the studio will have something to show soon in regards to Spider-Verse 2.
Good.
Yeah. Good, because that's awesome.
Yeah.
The Rock confirms that Red Notice is Netflix's biggest movie ever. What does that mean? Nobody knows. Well, in the 11 days from debut to reporting time, it was streamed for more than 277.9 hours, which means it's been streamed around 138 million times, give or take. If each time it was streamed was one ticket sale at the average price of $9.16, it would have a box office around $1.2 billion. Sounds right. I think this movie easily eclipses 5 billion if it's just in the regular theaters, no Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of movie it was.
Yeah, I don't think that this is a $1 billion seller in the real world.
No. But it's a fine movie.
It's good that
it is.
It's almost you feel like you pay for Netflix, but you almost feel like it's free. You know what I mean? Because Netflix costs what? $15 a month,
right?
That's the cost of going to see one movie. That's the cost of going to see one movie.
There's always that person that like once a month shows up on one of your feeds and they're like, well, this is how much my cable bill is now, or not my cable bill. This is how much my streaming bill. And if I had just cable, it'd be this. Is like, yes, but you also wouldn't have all these awesome movies,
right?
For $15 a month. It would actually cost you a lot more to go to the theater. So people have to be smarter. Okay. Speaking of movies in the industry, Anchorman director Adam McKay opens up about his split from longtime partner Will Ferrell. There's a little discrepancy between the two. It's based on the Lakers, as all things are.
Well, what's Will Ferrell's side of it?
Is he asked to be in the Laker movie, and Adam McKay just didn't even talk to him. He kind of ghosted him about it. So
and gave it to John C. Reilly.
But
that's the thing is, if you read the account, you can find it on IGN or it was a Vanity Fair piece. Adam McKay basically said, he was like, "Yeah, I fucked up. This is my fault."
Yep, he's owning it 100%. I think they'll be friends again, and they'll.
Yeah, I hope that the results of them being friends again is in Anchorman 3, because Anchorman 2 was not very good.
No, it won't be that. I think it just should be them producing movies together, not necessarily like, the same, like a movie that someone like Will Ferrell stars in, but it can be something that they just do together and are friends.
Yeah, I hope so.
We're about friends in this program. Friend of the program, Nicolas Cage, will play Dracula in the upcoming film Renfield from Universal, which stars Nicholas Hoult as the titular character. I love that word. This will mark the return of Cage to a big studio film for the first time in 10 years. His last major studio film for the first time in 10 years. His last major motion picture was 2011's Ghost Rider, The Spirit of Vengeance. Since that time, he has primarily starred in indie projects and lent his voice to several animated projects, including Spider-Verse as Spider-Man Noir and The Croods.
Indeed. Good. I hope this is let's go.
The Cage-assance.
Yeah. Seriously, though.
Yeah. Let's bring it back.
Movie Pig's supposed to be great.
I know.
Check it out. It's on Hulu.
I think I'll watch it this weekend.
It's on Hulu. Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's do it. Review.
Pig.
Nick Cage, friend of the program. Come on the show.
That'd be great.
Bring your face. My God. We'll do an extra episode, Nick Cage. We'll devote an extra episode.
He wants.
Yeah. Ah, love it. Love Nick Cage.
Twitter.
He has something. Kobe Smulders will reprise her role as Maria Hill in Secret Invasion. Can't have Fury without Hill.
That's
true. That's facts. Them's facts, yo. Maybe this might be my favorite thing. HBO took a $30 million bath on a canceled Game of Thrones spinoff.
Yeah.
The Naomi Watts vehicle had filmed a pilot in 2017 and was later canned despite the fact that the pilot cost $30 million. The House of Dragons was ordered for an entire season and will release sometime in 2022. HBO does not care. That's just like literally like make good content or we will not care.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh man, breaking news. Awkwafina has joined Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult in Universal's monster movie Renfield.
Oh,
he will play a character who teams up with Hoult to take on Cage's Dracula. I need this ASAP.
Yeah, whatever we can do, inject it in my veins.
Yeah,
I need it.
That's happening. We're getting that.
Nick Cage, come on the program.
I don't see Twitter for Nicolas Cage. Maybe he's on the Insta.
Somewhere. Maybe he has an OnlyFans account. Airbnb has offered an overnight stay at the iconic McAllister house from the Home Alone series, promising a night of boobsy traps, 90s food, and hosted by older brother Buzz, played by original actor Devin Rattray.
I think it's only $25. I think I saw that.
That's cool.
It's supposed to be
that's
like
the same house from
Home Alone.
That's the same house from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, by the way.
Oh, really? That's his family's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
It's like a whole experience that you can like build like Lego traps and such. So it's not just like you're staying there. It's like a dinner and a show kind of deal.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you can do it, do it. I'm just not going to go to Chicago in the winter.
Right.
In November of this year, researchers from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, MBARI, observed an ultra-rare giant phantom jellyfish. The giant phantom jelly, which is on display in the video below, which we have, is quite stunning. Even though it couldn't actually stun you as it is 30 feet long, mouth arms are just there to trap prey rather than sting them. The video is on nerdist.com.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I love jellyfish that are weird.
Put the poll out. We put the poll out on the Instagram. Which is scarier, the giant phantom jellyfish or the living robots called xenobots that can now reproduce? And 100% of the people responded by saying that the xenobots that can reproduce are scarier. And they're 100% wrong, because this fucking thing is scarier. Have you ever seen War of the Worlds? This is what this shit looks like. Did you see this? Did you look at it?
I did. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Look. War of the Worlds monster. Okay. Here we go. We're getting it. Okay. Do the old screen share. Here it is. Okay, get that there. Pull it up. Let's do that. Okay, there it is. Take a look at it. Guess what that looks like? Looks like a fucking giant phantom jellyfish.
It does. Yep.
Yeah. So that's scarier. Because they're here.
Robots reproducing though.
I don't care about that. They're
here.
They're like nano. But they're little. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about something that's this small. Coronavirus has been out here for, well, you know what? I got a spider bite. Hoping it's radioactive. Coronavirus. We all do. Out here for,
everyone, if you don't get bit by a spider and you don't say to someone that day, I hope it's radioactive, you should be dead. That spider should kill you. I'm 100%. Every single person that gets bit by a spider needs to tell one person. I don't care if you have to like text a parent or a cousin or anyone, a relative, whatever. I'd be like, I get bit by a spider. It better be radioactive. if you're not doing that, you're doing a disservice to this society as a whole, and you should be dead and not existing. We should all be hoping we get radioactive spider bites.
That got heavy.
It did, but I'm serious. I'm doing teacher voice right now.
Oh, is that what that is?
Bring it. I'm actually way meaner sounding when I do teacher voice, but if you get bit by a spider, thank you, Brendan, for sending me that text at like 6:30 in the morning, my time. But I appreciate it, because if you get bit by a spider, you have to tell someone, I got bit by a spider. I hope it's radioactive. That may be the most important thing you do in this life.
There you have it.
There you have
recommendations.
Okay, so college football, just in general, because that's awesome. I'm glad there's like a lot of good games this weekend. Beatles Get Back, the documentary on Disney Plus, is awesome. We finished it. It's roughly almost 9 hours. I think it's like 8 hours and 15 minutes. You watch the whole thing. You get the full concert on the rooftop, the last live performance of the Beatles. It's great. There's so much background stuff, so much, just fun things. And for all the people that were Yoko Ono broke up the Beatles, go ahead and watch that. I mean, it'll probably change your mind, because she's kind of chill, and it is what it is. They were gonna break up no matter what. Only Murders in the Building, we're starting to watch that. That's Steve Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. It's a really great show. You get kind of the best of everyone. You get Martin Short's kind of zaniness. You get Steve Martin's sarcasticness, and you get like Selena Gomez kind of being the straight person in all this, but also this secret background. And then we watched the Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett concert thing on CBS. That's really good. You can probably find that. And then my book recommendation, I just got this a couple weeks ago. I finally cracked it open because I've been working. But Brad Leone, he does Bon Appetit. He's a great guy. A lot of fun. Field Notes for Food Adventure. I really just kind of started going through it today, but he's a big guy on fermenting foods, which is fun. I do that too. Pickling, using your own, using whatever you can forage, and using smoke, all that good stuff. Forage, yeah, whatever you can forage.
What are you, a fucking caveman?
Foraging's good, man. You can get forage mushrooms, plants,
are
whatever you can
foraging
do.
Them?
I may,
but you haven't.
I haven't yet, no, because I'm scared of eating
whatever
something that'll kill me.
Can forage.
Whatever you can forage. But Brad Leone is a great guy. Watch his stuff. It's alive on YouTube. Bon Appetit. It's really fun too. He's got a great personality. So that's my recommendation.
He wants to come on the show and talk about foraging.
That'd be awesome. I tried to do, when I still worked at the bookstore, we tried to do an interview with him, and the publisher never got back to us. So, it happens. He's a big guy.
I'm a big guy.
You and him are
big.
very similar.
Yeah, different kind of big.
Different kind of, I don't know.
Guardians,
similar big.
Guardians. Yeah. My media recommendations are Guardians of the Galaxy.
The second movie, Volume 2?
The PlayStation game.
Oh, okay.
It's really fun. It's really fun. It's also really janky. Like, it's not very well polished. I fall through and like get stuck indoors and fall through levels and shit way more than I should. But I also got it on sale for Black Friday, so I didn't pay full price. So I'm not that hung up on it.
Nice.
We watched Jungle Cruise, starring The Rock and Emily Blunt. And as I was watching it, I texted you that every movie that The Rock in is now just Fast and the Furious.
Yep.
So like Red Notice was Ocean's 11 Fast and the Furious. Jungle Cruise was Pirates of the Caribbean Fast and the Furious. Just everything's Fast and the Furious for him. They're
as
all
it should be, because
Fast
that's the best. That's the best version of The Rock.
Right. I also wanted to just.
Does he have any sort of romantic thing in the Jungle Cruise?
Kind of.
Ugh.
It's not like it, kind of, but not really. Not like it was. Not like it is in Red Notice.
Okay.
I won't spoil Jungle Cruise. It is on Disney Plus if you want to watch it. I also just wanted to bring up I got my 2021 Wrapped from Spotify. I'm going to give my top 5 artists. I'm not going to do my top 5 songs because I use my Spotify to entertain my kids in the car. So like Snow White's Hi Ho was on it. so it's not super relevant.
Yeah.
Top 5 artists. Number 1, I'll go 5 to 1. Number 5 was Drake. Number 4 was Young the Giant. Number 3 was the Labber Brothers. Number 2 was Weezer, and number 1 was the Red Hot Chili Peppers in anticipation for their new album.
I don't use Spotify for music. I use Spotify for podcasts,
which is weird.
Well, the reason
you just use the podcast app if you're an iPhone guy.
Well, the reason I use Apple for my music. The reason why I use Spotify is that I actually just prefer the way it looks for a podcast, and I don't actually prefer the way it looks on music. It's just weird thing that I have about. Yeah. It is weird. I'm 100% admitting it. I got a deal from Apple Music years ago to join it, and they literally haven't changed the price on me, even though it costs way more for anyone else to join now. Yeah. So you get the same experience. John Mayer was my top. It was John Mayer, Haim, Taylor Swift. Let me think. John Mayer, Haim, Taylor Swift, Casey Musgraves,
Olivia Rodrigo,
and Paramore. No, Olivia Rodrigo. She had a good run in that middle part of the year, but Paramore is where I still end up listening. And Sturgill was 6.
So I had the list of a 37-year-old man, and you had the list of a 17-year-old girl.
I don't know about that. Allison Roman, hopefully friend of the program, chef, not chef, but cook from the New York Times. She's a New York Times bestseller, and
bestseller.
Come on the show.
She makes seafood.
Bestseller. We had a very similar top 5 artists. She had John Mayer, she had Taylor Swift, she had Casey Musgraves. She also had Fleetwood Mac and Joni Mitchell. So she and I have very similar taste in music, which was cool.
Sure. Yeah.
That was fun. And we're the same age. So I think there's just something. I think I just, my entire life I've related more with women than men. Nothing different there with the music, just the way it is. When you're raised by a strong, powerful woman like my mom, shout out to my mom, that's what happens.
BXG podcast publishes every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 a.m. Pacific, 4 a.m. Hawaiian.
Aloha.
On podcast services around the globe. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and other podcast services. Catch us on social media, facebook.com/BXG Podcast, Instagram @BXG Podcast, @GTFills, @Y2B, Twitter @BXG Podcast, @GTFills, @Y2B, and over on our YouTube channel, which you can be found by searching BXG Podcast. We have a great show tonight, and we had a great show tonight.
We did.
Looking forward to, in the next couple of weeks, doing a movie roundup for the year crossover with the guys from My Mom's Garage podcast. So please check them out as well. They just put up a review of, I think it was Red Notice. I listened to their Eternals review because I wanted to get a different opinion than mine and yours. And they said some things that I hadn't thought of.
Cool.
So there's that. They just put up, they're also a little bit shorter than us. We tend to ramble. They did 8-Bit Christmas.
Well, you're very tall and I am of average height. So.
God. Okay. They did 8-Bit. Their review for 8-Bit Christmas came out today, and then they also had a episode where they talked about all the Spider-Man stuff. So you can check them out from My Mom's Garage. Yeah, that's all. Cool. That is all for us. Tell your friends, tell your family. Oh,
tell your mothers.
Let me back up. We are still doing the YouTube giveaway. And we have increased subscribers a little bit, but tell people to hop on the bandwagon.
Do it. It's so easy to tell people.
Yeah. And if you're looking for a tasteful Christmas gift, Ambassador Sun. Promo code GTFills for 50% off at checkout.
It's great sunglasses. I wear them every day.
Yeah, I used to wear mine. I think Melissa threw them away because she didn't like them. Tell your friends, tell your family.
Melissa.
Tell your mothers.
Tell your mothers.
And your part-time lovers.
And your mother. Melissa, you're a mother. You know better.
The unmistakable essence of the BXG podcast. Take care, friends.
Thanks for listening, everybody.